Listen, the Mitumba story, let's look at it. We've got 5 minutes, okay? 24 million Kenyans wear Mitumba, according to a report. Nearly half of Kenyans wear second-hand clothes, commonly known as Mitumba. In Nigeria, we call it bend-down boutique, but okay.
What?
Bend down, because
boutique.
it's...
Bend-down boutique.
As in you have to bend down and it's a boutique, you understand. BDB, but that's... I digress. So there's a report from the IEA, that's the the Institute of Economic Affairs, and the Mitumba Consortium. They talk about that the trade is thriving in Kenya and it's driven by strong consumer demand. That the reason why it is so popular is because people want it. Now, people talk about, through this, you'll see that the reason why people go Mitumba is that they talk about, number one, quality, they talk about variety, and they also talk about affordability. That these things, but you don't want to think twice. You can, with 1,000 shillings or even less, we had the Mitumba folks here with 500 shillings. By the time they take off what they call camera and all of that and what's left, with 500 bob, you can get 2 pairs of trousers and 4 shirts kind of thing. When they're selling at, 50 bob kind of thing. It is possible for you to do that. And the argument has been, in as much as you want to invite conversations around protectionism of the market, or rather establishment and development of the market, just do it. It's coming from your implementation thing here that we spoke about just in the last story. Just do it. You have export processing zones that were set up to do this same thing. I understand that in Kenya, there were times when clothes were being processed, but they were not affordable for the Kenyan market. They were being exported.
In fact,
am I wrong?
It's not war. It is
still
the fact.
Happening.
Much of our EPZs export to the Gap. They export to Tommy Hilfiger.
Yeah.
There's so many known brands that our EPZs process. So the know-how and the technology exists in-house.
But if you try to buy a pair of jeans off of Gap, you are spending the equivalent at the very least of about 6,000 Kenya shillings.
Yes.
How many Kenyans are buying a pair of jeans for 6,000 Kenya shillings?
First and foremost, there are people who dress top to toe, including jewelry, does not get to 6,000 shillings.
That is what I'm telling you.
That's a problem. But then also, you've got the problem of fast fashion in the West. Because one of the things that we don't talk about, and if you remember when Kagame tried to ban Mitumba, the apparel that came from the West, basically Africa is the West's dumping ground for clothes. For example, in Europe, the average European consumes 24 kilograms worth of clothes of fabric every year. The American is at 56 or something double to the Americans, and the Indians are at 20 and Africans are at 10. Right? So what you do is that this huge amount of fabric that is disposed in the West must be sent somewhere.
But the thing is that it's not just disposal, but it's that they change their clothes according to the season.
Yeah, true.
That the clothes that you wore in the winter are not the clothes that you're wearing come April. They're not the same clothes that you're wearing come August.
But you're not wearing them next winter either.
This is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That they change the seasons, but they change them. They change their clothes according to the season, but they change them permanently.
Yeah, it's called fast fashion, yes.
It comes and goes, and where are you going to take it?
Yeah, and that's the thing. Africa is the dumping ground, and it's not just Mitumba. Let's look at how much Mitumba phones, tablets, computers, etc.
I even saw a crazy thing called Mitumba perfume the other day, and I was like, what?
Yes.
Yeah, for real.
They're not called Mitumba phones, refurbished.
Oh, I beg your pardon.
It is Mitumba.
Sorry.
It is Mitumba, Dennis. Go get your Huduma number from Kilgoris. It is Mitumba.
Refurbished perfume. I was like,
No, but guys, let's look at it on this other side. So, you're talking about the wearer, all right? Let's talk about if you want to start a Mitumba business, it is so cheap.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Where I'm just reading something here. The capital requirement, if you're small scale, 1,000, you'll get a few items. If you're medium scale, you can get bales, which can cost between 12,000 to 25,000. Licensing is easy. Location, you can sell it on TikTok or put your Mitumba on the street. Marketing, social media again. So when you look at you starting a Mitumba business, it's easier than going the route of opening up a factory, getting all, we were told this week, how many licenses for small business, for example?
Up to 337,000 shillings, so, and as opposed to 1,000. This is what we're talking about.
Yes.
If you want to fix the problem, fix the problem.
And Kanjo will not come and shut down your online business.
This is what we talk about.
And the thing is, there's a big question to be asked about, can you access locally made products at the frequency needed?
It's true.
Yeah.
And you choose which one do you want. You can start today if things went
Topsy-turvy.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. I mean,
if things went topsy-turvy and I say, you know what, Dennis, I want to start something, I want to be able to do something, maybe I start to iron some shirts and sell them, give me 1,000 bob, I can start a Mitumba business today with 1,000 shillings. But if I want to set up a yogurt shop somewhere and I need all the health certification and everything else, or if I want to set up a boutique in the middle of town, I am going to need 337,000 bob. Take your guess as to which one I'm going to pick.
And that's only money for permits, licenses, and all that. You've not talked about importing fabric,
yes,
paying workers, the machinery, rent. If you're talking about water, electricity bills. So if you look at the cost, and if you talk to local designers and local people who actually manufacture clothes, because we have them, they struggle to even expand the business. It's looking at the Kenyan model. It's not sustainable unless you have a serious cash flow, or you have the ability to get a loan from a bank.
Yes.
But for a lot of the small scale business people who can only afford to get 10K, 20K, or even 50K, you can start a serious Mitumba business.
Yeah.
All you need to get a good bill of second-hand clothes, shoes, handbags, whatever it is. Go to Gikomba, wash them really nicely, because I've bought Mitumba shoes myself, I'll not lie, and because they're original. But the contrast is we also have Chinese sport shoes, clothes, and all that. So I think it all boils down to how do we support our local retail sector.
Sure.
But we're living in a country where nowadays you can get imported furniture, you can get imported utensils that are Mitumba. Right? So what the danger really here is for the country is that what will we be left to manufacture if everything we are using that is affordable and quality is going to be imported from a rich old lady's estate, and you see, that's where you get the best seats. It's not from a rich old man. We don't buy good chairs.
Okay.
Yes. So, but seriously, you're going to get it from this lady's estate. She was worth a couple of millions. She's going to give you one of those state house looking like chairs, and you're going to buy each of them at 6,000 shillings. So why would you go buy from the local guy at Ngong Road who's building the same chairs? The thing that is in danger here is not the consumer. It is not even the person who's importing or selling. The thing that is in danger here is Kenyan industry and even the desire to invest in Kenyan industry.
I get it. Yeah. Sorry.
Because when you build an industry, all those costs, by the time you are done, your ROI is going to come in 20 years, if you are lucky, in 20 years. Then you're looking at someone else who's going to import those things and get an ROI in 3 months.
This is the thing.
Yes.
That when we look at these areas where these clothes come from, for Kenya, I think the largest Mitumba providers are the US and the UK.
Yes.
Right? Maybe just a little bit coming out of France, but mostly the UK and the US. But this is the thing, that in these countries, what we are calling Mitumba in Kenya is called thrift in those countries. They do have thrift shops because they are second-hand items that people can then go and purchase. However, they have created a balance. You see the gap that you talk about, that Kenya is exporting for?
Yeah.
That is your normal shop.
Yes.
If you were here in Kenya, it's like we make noise about, we can't call it, but we make noise about certain shops here. But in South Africa, it's the common man who shops in those shops.
Like Woolies, for example.
I didn't want to say, but it's the common man's shop. The gap that you talk about, even the Nike that you talk about, everybody and their uncle is walking around the US wearing it. But where are those clothes being done? They're being done here and then they're exported. My thing is that until and unless we are ready to have serious conversations, and not just conversations, but towards implementation and action and clicking in and engaging to go towards standardization, to go towards a market protectionism and all of that, until you are actually ready to do it. Guess what? Don't even start talking about the market suffering. Don't talk about not striking a proper balance and saying we should not be wearing other people's clothes. Fix the thing, because right here you have textiles that are being manufactured, that are being sent to the United States for their everyday man who are wearing these jeans and t-shirts. It's coming from here. So there is something that you're doing right. There is something that is happening. Why can that something that is happening then not be translated to the place whereby you can have somebody in the place where Dennis is going to pick his Uduma number?
Yes.
Buying those jeans
I'm not going to
for 200 shillings. For 200 shillings. Why? Why? And that's the thing. Because we refuse to implement. The plans are there. We refuse to take them and turn them into action. So until you're ready to do that, imagine, guess India, what? Buy Mitumba.
In India before 2008, they also had a similar issue. But then they had to protect the local textile industry over the influx of everything else that was imported as second-hand clothes.
Yeah.
So this is what they did, and it's a very simple plan. So what they did is, you have a brand in the US or France or in the UK, you want to bring your clothes into the country, open a plant in the country, do it from here. So when you do it from here, you're going to actually create job opportunities. Then you're going to use, if not locally produced materials.
Yes.
So you bring down the cost. So you serve the population within the country. But here's a situation where if you say you're banning Mitumba, what is our option?
That's it.
It's not tenable. At the moment, it's not.
It isn't.
Because we don't have structures that have been put in place to make sure that you're protecting the local manufacturers, and they don't have capacity. Today, if you shut down the Mitumba business, the reality is simple. We don't have capacity to produce enough. We may argue we do, but the quality is another question altogether.
Big time.
Yeah.
You know, there's also the question of rules of origin. This is an import-export term. But the issue of rules of origin is that Kenya does not produce enough textile, even for our EPZs, both synthetic and natural fabrics. And therefore, much of our fabric is already imported from outside Kenya. That then prohibits the costs of the final product in this country, because even when you wear what is popularly known as kitenge, it's not made here. Much of our kitenge material is made in China. So there's got to be a thinking of the whole process. Can we create an industry for creating synthetic fabrics, for example, in this country? Can we be able then to supply our local fashion designers with the right amount of fabric? And then can we scale them up to the scale where they're able to create this shirt that everyone likes, but is distributed throughout the country? Because what happens in this country is many a fashion label, and we have a few, when they create something, they create what? 100 of them, and then someone in Roysambu and someone in Kisumu, and where you're going to pick your Huduma number, want the same cloth and they can't have it. So what is by force is that some guy in that village needs to create a copy of it, and then the quality goes down. So the ability to mass produce is also a key inhibitor to how much our fashion designers can actually grow. Finally, it is also a question of us losing our culture. The more Mitumba we do, the less of our creativity is in what we wear.
It's true. It's one of those things you're gonna. Unfortunately, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. Yep. Without the implementation of some of these things that we are talking about, until you decide this is the direction that we actually want to go, we're going to continue to have this thing. It's, which came first, chicken or the egg? Do you say create your own industry, or do you say, well, now that they're gone, create the industry? Which one do you do? Someone
is saying, let's play to our strengths. Leave clothes to Bangladesh and those other countries. Let's do leather and leather shoes. We can engage in cotton farming. Send the cotton to these countries.
Let them make.
True. And Kenya has the third largest herd of animals in Africa. Nigeria is first, Botswana is second.
Thanks. It's true. I mean, we talk about Hollandaise is one of the fabric that we use in Nigeria. Where is it made?
Yeah.
It's made in Holland.
Yes.
So those are some of the things that we talk about, some of the conversations that we have. It's a big one, still to be discussed even as we move along.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.